Blizzard says it still talks about a console version of World of Warcraft. Scott, Jordan Miller over at VGC. Blizzard has said it still has discussions of a console version of World of Warcraft. Speaking to VGC in a recent interview, Holly Longdale, the vice president and executive producer of World of Warcraft, discussed life after being part of Microsoft. Asked about a console version of the game, the producer replied, quote, "Of course we still talk about it. We're gamers. I don't think anything is out of the realm of possibility, but we don't have anything to talk about right now," end quote. Longdale also addressed the prospect of a console version of the game at BlizzCon 2023, calling it a complicated question. Quote,
I bet.
Yeah, no doubt. We've got these 3 expansions, and we are so excited about them, but yeah, of course, it would be very insincere to say that we're not like, of course we're talking about that, end quote. She repeated before adding, quote, "We are Microsoft now," end quote. Elsewhere in VGC's interview, Longdale discussed what life has been like for the veteran development studio following the acquisition of Microsoft. Quote, "If anything, it's just been helpful," end quote. Longdale said in the acquisition, quote, "We got time with Helen Chang from Mojang, and we are sharing information, so it's almost as if we have access to what worked for them. We got to speak with the Elder Scrolls Online team and share what we're up to and what's been working. It's almost like we get a benefit. There's no one asking us to do anything," end quote. Longdale continued, quote, "World of Warcraft is doing very well." Man, I can't believe it. After 20 some odd years, Scott, it's been 20 years of this game.
Yeah, we're coming up on 20 years in November, actually. I had to look that up because I remember this game since first started forming memories.
That's nuts, man. World of Warcraft has been doing very well, and they're very proud of what's been able to accomplish. So it's almost like, just let it be, and let it keep being awesome. There's been tremendously supportive, and it's been let Blizzard be Blizzard, end quote. Launching later this year, The War Within is the first of 3 World of Warcraft expansions announced at BlizzCon last November. Scott,
it's still going.
There is no end in sight for World of Warcraft. The other question is just the Xbox fans going, are we going to get to play it too?
Yeah, it seems to be a very specific group of console players asking. I haven't seen anything about PlayStation, but of course, after the acquisition, that's just probably not on the table. Now that Xbox likes to share games with PlayStation, though, it's not impossible. But what I look at this, and personally, I think all the way back to Warcraft 2. So, a little facetiously, I was forming memories before World of Warcraft came out. Warcraft 1 and 2 were really good. I didn't like 3, and that's an unpopular opinion. But what I would like to see is 1 and 2 come back. I think 3 is still modern enough, and you could put it together in a war chest. Remember seeing that? Warcraft 1, 2, and I think StarCraft was in it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see one of those get brought back into the future, a remaster of sorts, and just put that on console and see how it goes. We've seen Age of Empires 2 come in, and Halo Wars 1 and 2 before that. You can control them on the controller. You can make it work, and I want to see that versus World of Warcraft, a 20-year-old MMO, the juggernaut. There is truly nothing that stands against it, but does that mean it needs to go to console?
Well, that's just it. I think it's at home, right on PC, right? Like, I know people, dude, I've got a buddy of mine who plays with his son and his son's wife, and they just meet up and away they go. This is their game, right? If you're into World of Warcraft, I almost feel like this is your go-to on a regular basis, and you don't deviate too much away from that, because it does take up so much time. So much of your valuable time is dedicated just to World of Warcraft, and it's hard to branch out maybe in other areas. How many people are asking for this to go to console? Is there a huge cry out? I'm not a World of Warcraft fan, so I'm out of the loop on this one. I really just don't know, right? When it comes over, dude, I don't have the time to invest into something like this. There's so many other things on the go, so many other games I would like to play to start with. Like, there's 2 dropped today. Like, I was just like, man, I'm all in on these 2 already. You introduced that, I'm like, I can't do that. Games as service has become such a different genre now, and such a growth within the industry. Everybody's vying for your time. They're trying to, how do we hold you a little bit longer? World of Warcraft is like, yeah, you're gonna pay us, so you didn't keep coming to the table. and they just keep putting more expansions on it, right? They had the model way back 20 years ago, and it still works for them to this day. to bring this to console, I think is inevitable. I think it will eventually make its way over. I absolutely do. I think now that they are part of the Microsoft banner, they have the ability, and Microsoft's like, hey, this is like one of the biggest games around. Why not put it out for console members also and expand that? But I'm sure this is anything but easy to do. So how many, what are we, 2 years, 3 years from getting it on console?
There's so many different realms, servers, different versions of the game, depending on what expansions you have. And when when it was mentioned this is a complicated question, absolutely. This could be one of the most challenging ones we've seen so far. But
yeah,
I could see that being a possibility. I think if you're playing World of Warcraft still, though, are you going to make that jump over to console? Because you're already invested in that ecosystem, and unless Xbox can really run it through cloud and just kind of borrow your account and your game to play it on the console that way, I think that's the only way it could really work out. But I'm not an engineer.
Yeah, I think that what they really want to do, if they do bring the console, is just bring over the cross-play opportunity. Allow console to meet up with PC and play that way, right? So they can meet up with some of their friends. Yeah. Otherwise, you're separating your audience, and they're not going to do that. Dude, that's such a thing of the past. I'll never forget it when Ubisoft brought Assassin's Creed multiplayer, and then the maps you had to purchase, dude, it just separated. All of us, the hardcore, were in, but there wasn't enough of us sometimes to actually get a game going. And that's just a thing in the past, dude. Maps are free now, right? So
it's funny. It's funny that you say that's in the past, because guess what is from the past?
World of Warcraft. 20 years of the past.
Before games as a service model, there was MMOs, and before there was MMOs, there was Warcraft.
Yeah, it's just absolutely insane that this is still going and going so strong. I don't want to be whatever, but it just looks so outdated to me, right? Compared to where we are today. But I get it too. There's a hardcore dedicated fan base that doesn't have the higher end PCs that they need to worry about, I'm sure. And then I'm sure there's others that are just like, we're all in and we have the top of the line and it looks the prettiest it could ever be, this, that, and the other. But it's just, what an interesting journey to think that World of Warcraft is still here to this day, going as strong as it is. And now we're talking about the possibility of bringing it over to console. I don't know, man. We'll see if it ever happens. But I'm sure right now Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond are sitting down with the team over at Blizzard going, okay, how do we get this title over to console? Because it makes a ton of money on PC. Why wouldn't they bring that over to console too? Right? Microsoft now is looking, how do we build the Xbox brand? How do we get more people to be invested into our ecosystem? Even when they branch out over the other side too, bringing over Sea of Thieves and other titles over to PlayStation, which is just mind-blowing. But it's
casting a wider net.
Exactly, right? But when you want to pull people in, man, one of the biggest MMOs of all time has a chance of being on the console. Would you want to do that? You can't get Final Fantasy. You just got Final Fantasy 14, right? But you can't get the main games for Final Fantasy. This could be a draw, honestly, if they keep it just for Xbox.
That's what I'm thinking now. If you're Microsoft, though, do you keep it just on Xbox, or do you open it to both consoles and just really cast that net?
Yeah, you could. Dude, that's a boatload of money opportunity right there. I don't know. But you can cast over on ITGTV.com to keep up to date with all of our news and content.